Hi, everybody. It's time again for This Week in Trivia, our latest Zimco Entertainment podcast. My name is Mike Zimmer, and I am your host. This is our third week doing this, I do believe, and it's been fun. We've gotten some decent feedback from it. Hold on, just gotta get my microphone checked there. That we're also going to try to put this one on the podcast finally this week. But quicker show today, I think. Heading out to the Florida Everblades game. This is Friday, if you're just seeing this now, or was recorded on Friday. Want to thank everybody first and foremost for those that came out first night at number three craft beer last night. Fun crowd. A little different. It's a 21 and up and 21 and over establishment. So we might be able to have a little more on the fringe content and materials. Nobody seemed to mind a couple of questions that I had that were a little more on the body side, but that look, I don't cuss on the mic if I can avoid it, and we're not going to do anything that's overtly offensive, that's for sure. But again, that's an adult group. We can be adults, and I do my best to shield the little virgin ears of look, a lot of our breweries are family establishments, and there's a place people don't want to hear smut. As much as we've talked about maybe bringing that back as a category, that might be the place where you could get some smut. We'll see. We did have one smutty question, and we did get, even in a place like that, a little bit of a gasp from the crowd. But let's get to this week in trivia. Again, if you joined us at number three last night, thank you. Very interesting trophy they have there, the Albert Dickstein Trophy. If you haven't seen it, check it out on the Zimco Entertainment page. There is a picture of that monstrosity that was actually printed out and made by a patron there at number three. Hopefully, we'll be able to have an extended run there. We'll see. You guys got to drink lots more beer. Let's just leave it at that. The questions this week, they were a little more difficult to put together, even though I had a little extra time over the weekend to put them together. It seemed like, for whatever reason, it was tougher for me to put this week's together. I think we had mixed results as far as hard and easy. We had some extremely good scores, especially at our Tuesday events, where the in the news questions included Delaware being the state where 60% of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated. I think a lot of people misunderstood. They thought 60% of companies were active there. A lot of people put California. This has to do with the fact that there's been some court cases, and a lot of those big companies are talking about leaving Delaware, which gives all sorts of tax shelters. They give all such sorts of different benefits for having your company incorporated there. And then, of course, let's see the what else did we have in the news? Looking, we had a couple of questions where it concerned heart disease, cardiovascular disease. According to ABC News, that's still the number one cause of death in the United States. And then, of course, we had kind of the morbid Wednesday question that went along with that, which was a study that was done, and it was published from Johns Hopkins University. They're a big medical university. They did a study where it concerns preventable deaths. Some people wanted to argue with me about preventable deaths and the definition of this and that, and the other. But Americans die younger than their counterparts in the UK in four major categories, one of which is heart disease. They eat modestly healthier. They're smoking modestly less. That could be one of the reasons, but I gave you that one. The other three were drug overdoses. Obviously, there's still a very big problem here in the United States with fentanyl and other things that are killing people. Then you have gun violence. Well, they don't have as much of that in England. It's there, but it's not nearly what it is here in the United States. And of course, then car accidents. I think that probably has to do with people drive younger here in the United States versus they do over there. It also takes a lot more to get a driver's license over there versus here they'll hand them out, like you're coming out of a concert and somebody's got a free flyer. Here, driver's license, driver's license. Seems like here in Florida anyway. Let's see, what else do we have in the news? I didn't make as many glorified notes this week either, so bear with me as I shuffle through the questions. Let's see. We had no, 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 no. The imports question in this led to Wednesday's Lulu. A lot of those tariffs have been put on hold between Mexico, Canada, even China's have been held off a little bit. But there was all sorts of stories, people panicking. What's going to be more expensive? What's going to cost more uh, for me? And the biggest selling beer in the country could be at risk of that. Constellation's brand is a company that Budweiser typically distributes throughout the United States. They're not part of InBev, but they are one of the companies that InBev partners with for distribution purposes. They're a little panicked about this because Constellation Brands represents Modelo, which is the number one selling beer in the United States. And I don't know if you've noticed, especially since the whole flap of the Bud Light thing happened. It seems like a million years ago, but it was just last year. Modelo was already creeping up in sales. And with this, obviously, it would be 20-25% more expensive, or on the surface, it would be. That also led to our other couple import questions that we have. As you can kind of see, the kind of the thread. I don't want to say a theme. We don't do themes, but we do have threads. And that led to a couple of different variations of this question. And then, other than lemons and limes, which are grouped together, raspberries and blackberries also grouped together. This, according to the website Visual Capitalist, by dollar value. What are the top fruits and veg that are imported into the United States from Mexico? And they include tomatoes, avocados, bell peppers, strawberries, and cucumbers. Tomatoes actually the largest cash crop. A lot of people thought avocados. So in the other variation of that question, I gave you avocados, but avocados about $2 billion, 2.1. Tomatoes solidly 2.5, 2.6 billion from the report that I read. Let's see what else. The furniture question that also went out there. Americans love to buy furniture from China, and $9.4 billion worth of furniture. We also asked which countries export the most furniture to the United States. Vietnam, Mexico, Canada, Italy, and Indonesia. A lot of people put a couple other countries. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head what they were, but in general, I've said this before. I'll say it again. The Lulu questions, especially on one like this, I'm expecting you to get two or three. A couple teams did very well, might have gotten four, but if you're getting all five, especially put them in order, that wasn't the case, and I didn't hear that from many of my hosts that people were like, "Oh yeah, they got all those." That's for sure. Did not happen in that regard. Let's see what else we have in the news with the Blue Man Group also was a kind of a course through the 3 days. They are ending their run in New York City. I guess they're still going to perform, but the where it all started. I have a noisy cat, by the way. She's decided that 4 o'clock on Friday is now feeding time, and it's normally 5:30. So bear with me. I do apologize about that. But I've completely lost my train of thought. But anyhow, Lulu's, you should only get a couple. That's the thought. Unless you were with us at number three, where I gave you the easiest of easy for a lot of people. It was an all or nothing. I asked, other than Screech, name the other five main characters that the teenagers that were on Saved by the Bell, and people just blew that out of the water. Except there's an age group of people that have no idea and got none. Health question was in the news. New study that included 6,000 U.S. participants says that those that do what at least once weekly decrease their chance of a stroke by up to 44%. This was according to United Press. You have the choices of dental flossing, getting a manicure or pedicure, going swimming, or having 15 to 30 minutes of sexual relations. Again, one of our lovely places, Bill said that some he heard an audible gasp, and somebody was like, "Oh my goodness!" I think that is overtly inappropriate at trivia. I don't know. Perhaps I looked around for when I asked this at Fort Myers Brewing, also the same night as Tiki up there at Village Brew House, and I did. I only saw one kid, and he was riding around on his skates, and I don't think he cared about this question at all. I don't think it was overtly inappropriate or anything like that. Let's see, what else did we have? Of course, big news with USAID this past week's been a big news story. I had that out there. Had that as one of our fantastic acronym questions, which is what does it stand for? Agency for the International Agency for International Development. That also led to which president actually signed that in by executive order back in the 1960s, early 1960s. I want to say it was 1961. It was John F. Kennedy. Let's just cruise on over to the history questions from there. And we had the sad anniversary of the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster. Um, that's on the heels of the Challenger. This time of year, it's a sad anniversaries for that. We also had some death questions that went along with this, and that included what do historians call the period in the 1790s during the French Revolution in which over 16,000 people were executed in France? And it was the reign of terror. And I think perhaps, we learned about this. I think that's probably world history was probably our sophomore, junior year of high school when you really get into the nuts and bolts of history questions. And I was always fascinated. We actually had a fantastic history teacher where we actually played a game in the class over the course of the week or so that we spent on that period of time, Western Civ, where you had to be one of a certain group of people, clergy, a royal, a loyalist, military, peasantry, whatever it was, and the whole thing was to stay alive. I don't think they would teach that now, but it was a very interesting uh, tool, won't you say, that my teacher used to kind of explain how perhaps it felt, which that also went along with the other history question that we put out there, which was about during the same French Revolution and the Reign of Terror. What did the group of revolutionaries themselves that formed the Provisional French Republic, what did they call themselves? And I gave you the choices: the Hands of God, the Committee for Public Safety, the National Barbers, or of course, the Department of Governmental Efficiency. Got some chuckles with that, which I'm going to get to that in just a second. It was the Committee for Public Safety because just like any other horrible well, I don't know if they were horrible. The French Revolution needed to happen, I guess, for democracy in Europe. But doing horrible things in the name of a rather mundane name, let's put it that way. So we had somebody, again, this was not at one of my events, but it was one of our other events, said to one of my hosts, and I'll keep that to myself as well, you were being too political, and it made it very uncomfortable. The people that we were enjoying trivia with do not share our political views. We came here to escape that. Okay, fair enough. I will give you that. I think we could all learn a lesson from these people in one regard. You should still be able to be friends even if you don't agree politically. Uh, that being said, I don't think any of my questions were overtly political one way or the other. I try to avoid that desperately. Um, I think everybody's political views should be their own, and I'm not here to preach one way or another. I like to pretend I'm center-ish. Some things I lean a little more left than I do a little more right, and vice versa. There's other things I lean a little more right than versus the left. I don't try to put my politics into this other. I think the only thing that I've really put in there is I like to say global warming to annoy people, and I mock climate change, but it's mostly because you can just upset some people overtly, and sometimes I have done that in the past. I am trying to be a nicer person and not do that. But anyway, that I thought those history questions. And let's see, what else did I have for history on our Thursday set? I thought we had a theme with the music and history, which was the day the music died. Of course, Buddy Holly was killed in that plane crash, along with Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, J.P. Richardson, back in the '50s. That was a big story in the music industry and music history. So I thought I threw that in there. But yeah, those are most of the history questions I thought that were of merit or interest this week. Let's see, what else do we have? Again, bear with me. I'm thumbing through my my questions that are in front of me. Let's see. Anything from the movie category. When Harry Met Sally was a question that I asked, or what product is being let me rewind here. Got ahead of myself. There has been a League of an Early Super Bowl commercial featuring Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan reprising their role from the famous scene at Katz's Deli, where Meg Ryan has a wonderful response, let's say. Of course, the movie was When Harry Met Sally. And then I asked the other question, what was the product that they are actually selling in this? And I gave you multiple choice for that. It's Hellman's mayonnaise. I'm looking forward to seeing the commercial, even though it's already been spoiled. Hopefully, they didn't spoil it too badly for you. Other movie questions out there. The animated film Dogman. Um, I think it caught some people off guard. It made $36 million. Pretty good take at the box office these days, especially away from blockbusters, this, that, and the other. But I think a lot of people were thrown. It was Dave Pilkey also has another series, the Underpants series. So thought that was kind of interesting. Let's see. Let's go to Wednesday movie questions. We had the question about the Marvel Cinematic Universe characters. Um, Scarlett Johansson playing Black Widow, and then of course the question about Mystique, which was Rebecca Romijn and Jennifer Lawrence. Let's see what else we have. A lot of people forgot who the bully was from Back to the Future, and that was Biff Tannen. I thought that was interesting. We haven't had any Back to the Future. I hope they never try to remake it, or I'm afraid that they would ruin it terribly. But I have a bad feeling that they will, because it's kind of left our collective conscience. It was very 80s. But everything old is new again. Please, if you're out there listening, don't remake those movies. Don't try to extend them. Don't do anything. Please don't do that. Let's move to sports. Obviously, again, I had a nice lady come up to me at my lovely 55 and older community on Thursday. It's 1 to 3. It's a wonderful venue during January, February, and March, and into April. They are a wonderful group of seasoned, uh, fantastic folks. She got a little aggravated with me. She came up to me. She goes, "We love you. We love what you put together. This is always fun and challenging, but you asked entirely too many sports questions today." And I was like, "I understand." And she's like, if you're going to ask sports questions, don't ask them in other questions. And I slipped in our Super Bowl mentality this week, the Mark Wahlberg film Invincible, where he played Vince Papale, is a based on a true story where he played for the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, it's a good movie until you read behind the scenes on that, by the way. This is where Disney ruins everything. It plays in with what I just said, but don't remake Back to the Future, please. Um, the Vince Papale story is amazing on its own, but they changed it and changed the timeline when they didn't have to, because it's Disney. Read the real story versus the movie. Movie's great. I enjoyed the movie. Um, it, they didn't have to do what they did. It was a good enough story on its own. Sports questions, of course, Super Bowl oriented this week. Asked questions such as, let's see, this was an interesting stat. The Super Bowl, 16 of the last 20 games and 37 of 58 total. The team wearing white has won the game. Guess who's wearing white this year? The Chiefs. Anyway, let's see, what else do we have with the sports? And we had the MVPs. Also, 33 of the last 58 Super Bowl games. The most valuable player has gone to a quarterback. But in 3 of the last 9, you have a couple of wide receivers and a linebacker. Now, I gave you the teams on here, and this helped. I still anticipated people to struggle on this one. A lot of people smashed this. I gave you the Rams, Patriots, and Broncos. Cooper Kupp, Julian Edelman, and of course Vaughn Miller. And that number team just smoked that. Let's see, sports question. Also, very interesting where it concerns the Super Bowl. You've got typically if a quarterback loses his first start, they don't win ever in a Super Bowl again. It's only been done 4 times. And Jalen Hurts, of course, lost to the Chiefs a couple of years ago, has an opportunity to be the fourth quarterback, actually. The only times in the past where this has happened, and I gave it to you in the question, Len Dawson in Super Bowl IV after he had lost Super Bowl I, Bob Greasy in Super Bowl VII after he had lost Super Bowl VI. That was the undefeated season for the Dolphins. And then the question that I asked was, um, this quarterback lost his first 3 Super Bowls, and they were destroyed in each. It was pretty close in the first one. They got beat 55-10 in the next. Of course, that was a question on another side. That was the Denver Broncos. Should be giving it away by now. They also lost 42-10 to the Redskins. It's John Elway, and he won back-to-back Super Bowls, Super Bowl 32, Super Bowl 33, and then he retired right after that. So there you go. I thought that was tough. It was tough for a lot of people. Also, February is Black History Month, so we had the sports question around that. Who's the first black quarterback to start a Super Bowl? Also in that Super Bowl where John Elway lost, it was Doug Williams of the Redskins back in 1988, who was the first black head coach to win a Super Bowl, and that was Tony Dungy of the Colts. Any other sports questions? This one was interesting, and I had this in some of ours. What is the only team that played in 4 Super Bowls and has never held a lead in any of them? And it was the Minnesota Vikings from the 1970s. Some of our older fans that are from the lovely Great White North of Minnesota not happy with me on that question. Lowest scoring Super Bowl, the Patriots beat the Rams 13-3. Let's see, what else do we have out there? The teams that have never been to a Super Bowl include the Cleveland Browns. I gave you that. Sorry, Browns fans. Some people just, it's hard enough being a Browns fan, especially right now. And then I bring this up, right? But the Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, and Jacksonville Jaguars also. Um, the other teams that have never been to a Super Bowl. This one also interesting. Bill Belichick has the record with 9 Super Bowl appearances. Um, Andy Reid on Sunday will become tied for second place all time with 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. Who did he tie with? Now, I offered this in 2 different variations, just outright as a hard question or multiple choice as part of our gamble. And I gave you the choices of Tom Landry, Chuck Noll. I think some of the other options were Bill Walsh. I'm trying to think with my other, and then Don Shula. It was Don Shula. And of course, people forget he coached the Baltimore Colts to a Super Bowl and then coached the ones with the Dolphins. Let's see. Music this week, we had again the day the music died. Grammy questions from the 70s. This one proved to be tough for some people. Certain age group wasn't tough at all. Simon Garfunkel won 6 Grammy Awards in 1971. Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Album of the Year, all with Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Foo Fighters, the most nominated rock band over the last 25 years. They've won 15 awards. The most awarded band all time, U2 with 22 Grammy Awards. Let's see. That was that day. Let's go to this day. Super Bowl halftime was also out there as a theme. And of course, Katy Perry had her performance hijacked by Left Shark. Anyway, at our music trivia at the Wyvern, we also had a couple other tougher questions. If you don't know this, it's an interesting thing to go and look at. There's a reason why they pre-record the anthem now. And some people say, oh, well, it was for quality, it's for this, it's for that. No, it's because Garth Brooks, right before the Super Bowl in 1993, nearly refused to perform. And they're like, what are you doing? And the reason was is he had a protest song, "We Shall Be Free," and it was ongoing. This is just post the Gulf War, the first one, and he wanted it played, and they said, "Nah, we're going to lay away from that." And he said, "If you don't play it, I'm not going to sing." So they appeased him. He sings. From then on out, they pre-recorded the artist. So whether the recording artist is there or not, guess what? You're already on tape. We also had which very popular rapper has been nominated 17 times for the Grammy Awards. and not won a single one. First nominated in 1994, most recently 2006. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg. He claims he's been nominated 20 times. Not so. That also led to the Post Malone question. Post Malone, the person right now with 18 nominations and never won once. That's it, I think, for those that we have this week. The one other question we had with the TV questions. Let me get to that quickly, and I want to make a point of clarification. Um, so one of our fantastic longtime patrons, who also likes to argue with us, we had the question about the thread that goes along with the Saved by the Bell question. I had questions about Kelly Kapowski, and we also had the question about Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Sorry, my brain started to work. She was on that show, and her name was Kelly. And then I asked, what other television series during the 90s, from 1990 to 2000, so specific timeline, did she play the character of Valerie Malone? It was Beverly Hills 90210. Now, unbeknownst to me, I didn't go looking far enough down the rabbit hole for this one. She apparently was also on Baywatch. And a lot of people, not a lot, a 20% group put Baywatch. I don't remember for her from Baywatch. But here's the other kicker. Apparently, her name on the show, Baywatch, was Valerie. But it was not Valerie Malone, and it was not between the 1990 and 2000 era that I put out there. We also had the question, by the way, about Tori Spelling and Jenny Garth, two of the four cast members that were on every season of Beverly Hills 90210. They played Donna and Kelly. I think that's it. And in this kind of abbreviated version of the show this week, that's what we have. Want to invite you out, ladies, gents, boys, and girls, to all of our venues this time of year, but with a reminder to get there early. Obviously, the weather has been glorious this week, and we had such a slow January everywhere. People are out in force now, and a lot of our folks from up north are back. So it's going to get crowded. Fort Myers Brewing, this week last year, we set a record with 52 or 53 teams. The Celtic Ray this week, we had people hanging from the rafters playing upstairs. I know a couple of our other venues were packed. We want you to come out, but get there early for the best seating, or get there right before at some of these places where you might be able to sweep in and get a table. But please come out if you're at one of these outdoor venues where you can bring your own seating, do so. One of those camp chairs, pack chairs, put them in the trunk. Be ready for that. As for our other places, again, it's going to be a little full this time of year, but once trivia starts, a certain element of people aren't there for trivia at some of our venues. So if you're thinking, oh, well, it's too crowded, I won't stay, stick around, find a seat, put your name in on the wait list, whatever you got to do. You can play, and we want you to play because after about 7:30, 8 o'clock, these places start to slow down. Well, we're there from 7 to 9, 7 to 9:30. That's what we're there for, to make them money. And with that, I think I said it last week, make sure to leave a nice gratuity for your fantastic bar staff, wait staff. This time of year is crucial to a lot of people's incomes, including myself. We're busier this time of year. A lot of people in the service industry, if they're smart or they've been in the industry a long time, you put that money away that you make these 3, 4 months of the season, and it helps you when it's slow in the middle of the. So make sure to leave a nice gratuity and tip for fantastic staff out there. Also, ladies and gentlemen, trivia is free, but it isn't free. Buy some food, drink some beer. Make sure that you're not going in there and getting an iced tea and running people around for 3 hours. That's wrong. And honestly, again, we're there to make people money. We understand people, want something fun to do that's not expensive. Well, this is it. But at the same time, come on. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week in trivia. Hopefully, you enjoy this and have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back next week with all sorts of other shenanigans. Till that time, have yourself a very pleasant, happy weekend.